Okay, so we're going to go through the best settings for Anno 117 at Pax Romana to get the most FPS while also having your game look solid. And this does depend on what your GPU, your CPU is, so we will discuss that as we go through the settings. So let's get right into it, starting off with our display settings. Not really much to say here. You can adjust the gamma if you wanted. Honestly, I thought the default was pretty solid. I actually am leaving VSync enabled for a city builder game. I think it's totally fine to have that extra latency to make it look a little bit smoother. If you don't want to have this on, you feel free to turn it off. But I think like for FPS games, you want to turn it off. But for city builder games, I think it's totally fine to leave it on. Limit FPS I have off because their max frame rate is 140, which is pretty rough. So I have that turned off, and then I just limit the frame rate through the NVIDIA control panel. Then we have HDR. I have that on with a 1100 HDR max luminance. I didn't change that at all. I think that's fine. And then their colorblind mode is under their display settings. They don't have like an accessibility menu anywhere up here. So just keep that in mind. If you are colorblind, this is where you can find it. So moving on from there to our graphics settings, I think these are the ones that most people care about. We're going to start off with our upscaling. If you want to, if you need it, you can turn on your DLSS or your AMD, depending on whatever works best for you. And then, of course, if you go into the quality, max quality is slower, but it looks better. And then ultra performance gives you more performance, but the game looks worse. Pretty self-explanatory there. And then you're going to want Transformer, as the CNN is their legacy model. Then moving on from there, we're going to turn this off. I think TAA is fine for anti-aliasing. From my understanding, the MSAA actually creates a sharper image, but it does come at a performance cost. So I think TA looks just fine, so I'd leave it on that. But if your computer can handle it, you could test around with the MSAA, and it might feel a little bit better or look a little bit better. I think texture quality on high is super solid. I don't think it affects the performance too much. If you need to, you could turn it down to like medium, but I think texture quality is super important for making things look good. So I would leave that as is. For lighting quality, lighting is super important, especially in this game, for how things look. You can see the difference in the shadows, etc. If you can, run it on high, but for a lot of people, medium might be better, especially once your city gets bigger. I've found that as you build bigger cities in games like these, you generally need to turn down the graphics settings so the game still runs smoothly and doesn't lag. So you could have it where you have it on high at the beginning and then slowly turn it down from there. Then shadow quality, it's the same thing. I just think that the lighting is slightly more important for how the game looks. If you can, I'd run it on high, but as you have more more buildings in the game, there are going to be more shadows that has to process. You might want to turn it down to medium and then finally down to low. I just think it's slightly less important than lighting. Then water quality, again, you're not going to be looking at the water too much unless you're sailing, so I have it on medium. You could turn it up to high if you wanted, or even low. Just depends how much you want to look at the water. Water in Anno is generally super pretty, so I wouldn't turn it down too low, but that's just how it is. And then object quality is just basically how many points are in the object. So it's the graphical complexity of the buildings and vegetation. It's a little bit like texture quality, I think. If you can, again, turn it up to high and, turn it down as you need to. View distance, unless you're like doing really long shots, I think medium is totally fine. It's just how far you see within the game. But yeah, you could turn this up if you wanted, but you really don't need to. But you can have a super far view distance in this game. Terrain quality, and you're not going to be looking at the terrain too much. I think you're probably looking more at your city, so you could turn this down to medium or even low and probably be just happy with that. Ray tracing, this is going to be a super high performance hit. If you want to, you could turn it on low and get that, just make it look a lot better. But if you're having performance issues, the ray tracing is the first thing that I would turn off, and then instead have your lighting quality go up here. But if you want, you could have it on low or medium to be just fine. And the crowds, I don't think they affect it too much, but it does, as your city gets bigger, having higher density of crowds will mean that you're running the game slower. So that's just something to keep in mind. That is all the graphics settings for right now. So let's go into our audio settings. Nothing really here to change around. Sometimes I'll turn off the voice volume because it can get annoying when I'm recording a video. But other than that, I think I'm pretty much happy with how everything is. Moving on from there, have our controls. I actually like most of their keybinds. I don't think I changed a single one. They're all super solid. You have your WSAD to move the camera around, and then we have zoom in, zoom out. I think all of their hotkeys for building, demolishing, all that is totally fine. There's no map, so a lot of times I would change the M to the tilde key on games that have map on M. One of the ones you're going to be hitting the most is H for build residence. So just keep in mind that there are hotkeys for building most of the things, and it can save you a lot of time to learn what the different hotkeys are. Again, I don't really think there's too much to go through here. You can save camera presets, which can make it super nice for zooming around to different islands and stuff. So that's something that I think people probably don't use enough, and it could just save you a lot of time instead of having to go down to the mini map and click where you want to go. And then also keep in mind control groups. This makes it super easy to keep track of your different military units and ships. So if you want to have a ship, be numbered something, you just select the ship box, select it, then hit control 1, and then if you ever want to select that group, you just hit 1. And then I think that's pretty much everything. These are all just grayed out because you can't change them. You can jump to ruins by using J. That can be super useful. And then there are regional residence upgrades and regional mass upgrades, so just keep that in mind. That can be useful as well. Just good to know what the different hotkeys are, as it will save you a lot of time. Okay, so we have our game settings here. This is auto plan building, so basically if you don't have the resources to build a building, then it will put down a plan instead of actually building it, and then once you have the resources, you can go again and click on the building and build it. I like this feature sometimes, and other times it's annoying because I forget to go back and actually build the building, but it can be useful, and it's really nice for planning out your city. So just keep that in mind. This can be super helpful for planning out your city. Then we have need unlock pop-up. This toggles the pop-up notification when a new set of needs are unlocked, so that can be nice to have. Then set sail. This just keeps the game from starting, and you have to hit set sail when you're starting the game. Then this includes the trade income on the balance tooltip. I guess if you're getting really into the economy, you don't have to turn this on. Then I like edge scrolling to be on. Some people like just moving around with WASD. I'm a big edge scroller though, because I come from an RTS background, so edge scrolling was sort of the way, or Dota 2 if you play that. And then I think the sensitivities are actually just fine. I actually might turn up the camera keyboard sensitivity because it feels a little slow when you're WSDing around. Then you can have an extended camera where you can increase the maximum zoom distance for high-end computers. I haven't messed around with this yet because I haven't really been zooming out that much, but that could be super interesting and could maybe get some really cool shots with that. And then this tilt shift is activate for a camera lens effect that blurs the foreground and the background. So I guess that could be super good if you're like turning off the HUD and taking super cool pictures. Then we have our autosave interval. 5 minutes is the lowest. Then we have dynamic versus unlimited. Dynamic autosaves are limited and automatically manage to keep the optimal number of backup points across your playthrough. Just keep that in mind which one you want those on. You can also have crossplay enabled or disabled for multiplayer. I don't think that's really an issue in a city builder game, but just something to keep in mind. Then interface, this is where you can change a number of things. You could turn off the construction grid if you want. And then we have status icons, upgrade icons. Xrata, you can turn this on or off. Honestly, I find the status icons annoying sometimes, so sometimes I'll just have them turned off. But these are all your different little settings. There's nothing here really that I would change. And then finally, we have our language settings. Again, nothing I would change. So there is my settings guide for Anno 117. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope that going through each of the graphic settings and sort of explain the thought process behind it helped a bit. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button. It's really helps me out. And yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.